Pray they don't have Rite of Negation. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing the deck that I had the most fun playing last night on stream. This is Ekko and Zilean. Now, I like to call this list hide and seek, and you'll see why when we go through the actual deck list in just a moment. However, I'm going to take a chance to say, if you just care about the games, you can use time tags, jump ahead, check those out. Also, if you're interested in today's list, deck code will be in the video description. Link to Mobalytics will be in the video description. And lastly, if you're new, consider subscribing, obviously. But this list is fun, and I was very surprised at how well I was doing with it last night, because I tried a lot of lists last night and we lost a bunch. This one by far had the best win rate of all of the shenanigans I was trying. Now, it is entirely possible that it had a bit to do with the Wild West of the meta. I don't think that this is going to be a top tier deck. It just doesn't feel like it's that consistent. But when it works, it's very powerful. So ultimately, I think that's going to be the big knock, is that it's a lot of fun. I like the play pattern, and when it works, it works. However, it just doesn't seem to have that top deck consistency. And when I say top deck, I don't mean off the top of your deck. I mean like a top tier deck, you know, an S tier deck, whatever naming convention you want to use. It just doesn't feel like it has that. So I want to set proper expectations. You can definitely win with this, but it's not going to be like a meta buster. So right out of the gate here, you need to know that we're playing Ekko and Zilean. And since we're playing Ekko, we've got Ancient Preparations as a 1-drop so that we can get a predict going early. This is also just a great source of a cheap predict later on for trying to get it to the point where Ekko is leveled when you play him, or at least shortly after you play him, because he has some survivability issues. We also have Fallen Feline. So this is part of the reason I call the deck hide and seek. This deck just creates powerful cards in your deck, and then you use your predict to find said powerful cards. That's like the entire premise. You hide things and then you go find them. Like a dog burying a bone for later. That is this deck. So Fallen Feline here creates Hexite Crystal. And yes, it's near the bottom, but with predict, you can potentially find it. Scrying Sands is a very effective combat tool that also has predict. So of course we love it and we run it. Chronomancer is just a nice early game chump blocking body that also happens to have predict. And so right out of the gate here, you can see we've got decent ways to predict along with the cat. Next up, we have Called Shot. So this is like the spell version of the cat in my mind. I'm only running this as a 2 of because it doesn't help develop your board. This is the kind of card you play when you have leftover mana and you don't want to overbank spell mana, something like that. But Called Shot here is just, you draw 1, but you shuffle in Parallel Convergence. And if you're not familiar, Parallel Convergence is powerful. It's a 4-mana card, but you get a free attack with exact copies of all of your allies. So this is a very powerful effect, and again, hide and seek. Next up, we have Iterative Improvement. This card actually does quite a bit in this list. Because so many of the units we play have predict, this is yet another source of predict potentially for you. But also, the non-predict units usually have pretty powerful summon effects. So for example, Fallen Feline, if you use improvement on it, you get to make more Hexites. And that's a good thing, because Hexite is a powerful card. But even outside of that, you've got cards like Merciless Hunter. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And Xenotype Researchers as well. So Iterative Improvement does a lot in this list just with your own stuff. And then there's always the sneaky use it to copy an opponent's card. And that sometimes matters when they're playing big bombs. And maybe you want to copy that Leviathan or that Great Beyond. Have at it. This card's very versatile. It does a lot for you. I'm a big fan. Mystic Shot. We're playing Piltover and Zon, so we're running Mystic Shot. I mean, that's kind of the end of that explanation. Time Trick. This might be my favorite card from the new set, period, just because of how versatile it is. So at 2 mana and burst speed, you can get a nice predict in, but then you also immediately draw it. So it's very good for digging for answers if you need them in a pinch. And it's also at burst speed very good for leveling your Ekko in response to things, because again, Ekko a little bit weak on the health side of things. So being able to maybe level him up in response to something is a pretty big deal. Zilean, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm still playing Zilean, and the time bombs are nice, and it's certainly a decent opening body with predict, but I could fully see versions of this list that just drop Zilean, and that hurts me because I think Zilean is cool. I love the design. I love the flavor of Zilean. I've tried to make him work a million times in the past, and I thought surely this would be the deck for him. But as weird as it sounds, his time bombs are like the weakest thing that you want to find in hide and seek. Now that we've introduced Hexite crystals, and now that we've introduced, you know, things like parallel convergence, Zilean and finding time bombs just isn't as fun, and it isn't as impactful anymore. And as a result of that, you're really just playing him because he's a 1/4 with predict, and the time bombs are like a nice to have, but I find myself very rarely actively searching for time bombs or actively trying to recreate Zilean the way that I was previously. So just keep that in mind. This is one of the cards I actually think is a flex card, and if you want to go with a different champion, Heimerdinger has crossed my mind, for example, and we might do a video with a Heimerdinger version in the future, or some other champion, but I need to be upfront. I got to be honest with you, gang. Zilean does not feel good so far. Next up is the other card that I consider to be a bit of a flex card. This was the other one I was the least impressed with in practice. On paper, I love this because it's right up there with Time Trick in terms of trying to find you a tool and then giving it to you. So where Time Trick is 2 and you predict and you immediately draw whatever you choose, Preparation here is 3. You still end up with a copy of whatever you choose, but then you also draw a copy. But the thing that was hurting this the most was the drawback of placing a card from your hand into your deck. Sometimes that's readily available. Other times, especially in long drawn out games where you're really trying to hunt for something, you might not have another card to put back into your deck. We're not running like ballistic bots in this or anything else. So still running it for now, but this is another card that I consider to be a flex. So Zilean and Preparations, at least as of now, were the cards I was the least impressed with. Next up, we have a Merciless Hunter. This doesn't have any direct synergy with the deck, but it's still really powerful. Like, the card is overtuned, and we are trying to slow our opponent down and keep a handle on the board. And in that regard, Merciless Hunter is great. You get a 4/3 body, a relevant keyword. You make something vulnerable. So if it's an annoying unit and you can't Mystic Shot it to death, whatever, you can force trades. This card is just great at stalling in that kind of early and mid game so that you can find some answers. But it's also good because of iterative improvement, allowing you to make even bigger versions of it and continue to challenge into things. But it's also great with Xenotype researchers. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But first we have Practical Perfectionist. This card is great in this list. I love it. It's everything I thought it would be. The 4/2 body is relevant. It barely ever died to Mystic Shot last night. And the predict was awesome. Now, I will say that the predict is awesome, but you also have to be aware that when you are predicting with her, you're creating additional copies of whatever you choose. Now, sometimes that's great, because if you predict like Ekko, for example, awesome, you just made a bunch more copies of your champion, and that's going to annoy your opponents. But if you're in a pinch and you have to like choose a Mystic Shot because you know you need to deal with an answer next round, not that Mystic Shot is bad, but if that's what you do, just keep in mind that you also shuffled in a bunch more Mystic Shots, and it might slowly be, you know, throwing off the numbers of your deck in terms of hunting for your big power cards. Because remember, we're trying to find Hexites, we're trying to find parallel convergence, that sort of thing. We're trying to also find, so I know I've mentioned it a couple of times already, Xenotype researchers. Now, we're not necessarily trying to find the researchers themselves, but we are trying to find what they have buffed. And that is one of your main win conditions. Now, Hexite and Ekko shenanigans, especially with Chrono Break, are also win conditions. Parallel convergence can be a win condition because you can catch people completely off guard. But just playing researchers 2 or 3 times, whether you draw them naturally, whether you're copying them with iterative, maybe you perfectionist to find a researchers, which shuffles more researchers in, and then those researchers continue to buff things. Whatever the case may be, eventually you're going to hit a point where you're playing really big units for cheap, and that sometime is good enough. And it's even better if you've got 1 or 2 of these big units and then you start playing cards like Parallel Convergence. Well, now your opponent is in for a really rough time. So this is actually one of your win conditions, and all of the cards that it buffs up are usually, you know, okay early game, but not great late. And as such, getting those buffed versions is how you scale. And then in the case of something like Merciless Hunter, for example, that much better because you can get better trades and so forth. But really, being able to take something like Feline, being able to take something like Chronomancer and make them relevant in the mid game again is huge, because we want to play them early. And then, you know, with the exception of Feline, because we're trying to jam in Hexites, drawing a Chronomancer later is not something you want to do. And you got to kind of keep that in mind. And so researchers allow you to make up for some of these lackluster early game cards. And then the last card of the list is Ekko. And Ekko does some crazy things. So multiple copies of Ekko also means if you've got one on the board, then Called Shot suddenly becomes the champion spell. And so that's why I'm only running 2 of these main deck, because this is 1, kind of an overflow card, and 2, with Ekko you have access to more of them. So if you're wondering why that was at 2 earlier, that's why. Ekko also making Time Trick is your primary source for refilling your hand. So you kind of have to manage your resources very carefully in the early game, because even though we're playing Piltover and Zon, we are not playing like old school PNZ where you just never run out of cards. You can run out of cards in this list if you're not careful, until you get Ekko up and running. Once you get Ekko up and running, there's a ton of tricks that you can pull, pun intended, to continue getting Time Trick. And every time you play Time Trick, it's basically like drawing a card. So a leveled up Ekko basically says on strike, draw a card, but you get to pick it, right? Because you're going to do the Time Trick. So leveled up Ekko is really big deal, kind of the centerpiece of the deck because it powers so many other things. Obviously, Chrono Break is disgusting. It's as powerful as you think it is. It is still bugged right now. So during the animation, when it shuffles Chrono Break in, you'll see it show different speeds than slow. It's always slow. Even if you see something else during the animation, just keep in mind it's always slow. But I've seen every speed you can think of. Focus speed, burst speed, fast speed. I've seen them all. They're slow. But the card is still busted even at slow. And then the real big combo, if you can pull it off, is Convergence followed by a Chrono Break. Because if you've got like 3 units, but you throw a Convergence out, these will then die once they hit because they're ephemeral. But Chrono Break will still revive them, and they will lose the ephemeral keyword. So you'll just end up with like multiple Echoes or whatever. It's kind of busted. Chrono Break is also really, really nice for, just so you guys are aware, researchers and Feline, because these are summon effects, not play effects. So you're not going to get extra predicts out of a Chrono Break, but if you've got 1 or 2 cats and you've got 1 or 2 researchers out and they die and you pop a Chrono Break, their triggers are going to occur when they get revived because they are summoned again. So that is very important. And again, that's one of the ways you continue to fuel your deck with potential win conditions. But this is the list. As I said before, deck code will be in the video description. Link to Mobalytics will be in the video description. It's not fully refined, and I do stand by that. I think both Preparations and Zilean might end up becoming things different later, but this is basically the list I settled on after playing last night. I'm gonna share some games now. Unfortunately, I've got a really swamped schedule today, and normally I go out of my way and I record games specifically for YouTube because I think you all deserve that, as opposed to watching me on Twitch and then watching me on YouTube. However, because I have so much going on, but I didn't want you guys to miss out on me sharing this list, I am going to share games from last night. So if you hear me talking to chat or hear me talking to somebody and it doesn't make sense, there's no context, that's why. These are going to be games from last night. I apologize. I'm sorry. But hopefully you enjoy the games nonetheless, because I had a lot of fun playing them. I think that the list is a lot of fun and I encourage you to check it out. But that's enough of me talking about the deck. This has been a long intro, so here are the games. All right, let's rock this. Let's lose some games with this before we turn on the disgusting stuff, because I still think that Lulusives is where it's at. I do want to hear something funny. You know, it actually could be rather interesting to run a bunch of one-ofs because of all of the potential ways to search for cards. Like, I was just thinking to myself, we don't really have any like mass removal, which would be kind of nice against a list like this, and so it makes me wonder if maybe I should be running a one of Spirit Fire. You were banned from Tinder? That is impressive. No joke, that is impressive. I think we want more Merciless Hunters, because I think being able to trade into their larger units is going to be important. Yeah, that's all right. That's legit impressive. So we're gonna wait, see what the play is here. So they're trying to ensure that they will trigger Lurk. We're just gonna go ahead and give that vulnerable.
It can be undone. You're dead meat.
Hello, Smith. Welcome. I think here I just want to take the free damage. Oh no. Oh no. All right. Let's see what we can hit here. Oh. Oh. Oh, hello. Do we want more Zileans or Echoes in our deck? Echo.
A 1, a 2, a 3.
I think making more copies of Echo is the way to go here. Yes, you are correct. There was a temporary moment in time, pun very intended, where Leona's level 2 had overwhelm. Now they've since corrected it, but I kind of hope that then they uncorrect it, if that makes any sort of sense. Because I think that it was well liked. So it's at 4. If it triggers Lurk, that's going to jump up to a 6. So it's just a matter of like, do I want to do anything with that? I think the answer is no. I think we just predict here. Both Researchers and Fallen Feline are cheeky potentially next round. I think we want to try to get a Hexite going, because cleaning up their board I think will be more important, assuming we can pull it off anyway. What have we been up to? Oh, you know, bit of this, bit of that, living the dream, that sort of thing. I think I want to go ahead and do this here. If they've got buffs to make this stay on the board, then they've earned it. But otherwise, I'm fully expecting them to get some value trades. And so now the question becomes, do we want to give this up to not take 6 and then Mystic Shot here? And I think the answer is yes. Now they could have their own answer here if they run Bone Skewer. Bone Skewer is a bit of a punish, but actually, you know what? I forget. Rek'Sai's not like ephemeral. I could have waited till post-combat because all of the units would have been dead, and then we could have Mystic Shot it, and Bone Skewer wouldn't have done anything. So that was a misplay by me, but
Just out of reach.
so we are at 3. Pretty close to leveling up Ekko. We didn't have enough to do both of these and play them though, so I think that shuffling this in is correct. And then we'll go this route. Oh, what a tough call here. Iterative is really good for us. We're going to be taking some damage because of the overwhelm for sure, though. And so having potentially a bigger blocker is pretty tempting as well. Let's go with the researchers here. We'll draw that next round.
Cute, but reeks of time anomalies.
This is our first game piloting Fiesta, so I don't actually have a good answer for you yet. So the downside is that we want to play this, but we also want to play this. They've already played 2 of the hammer snouts. I'm just thinking about things that can punish us by playing this Ekko, but I think we go for it. Interesting. Those still show burst there, even though I guess they're supposed to be slow, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I think the animation is just wrong. Okay, they legitimately had all 3 hammer snouts. I'm not even angry. I'm just impressed. I'm not even angry. I'm just impressed. Jam this back in, see what we get. Oh, it's a real shame. So it is slow. I think there's like a 0% chance that we don't take this. But we're kind of out of cards at the moment. And it's a real shame that this is going to be dead now. Oh, you know what? We forgot to run his called shot. That was a card that I needed to craft and run, I think. We'll have to fix that after this game. I mean, I can't afford to take the full 13, can I? But we already know we're also drawing a chrono break next round, is the problem. It's very cool, but we're in a bit of a pickle here. It's fleeting. Fine. All right, fine. Hey!
New tech, new tricks, new day, new zone.
Oh my gosh, they had 2 Doom Breakers and they had all 3 Hammer Snouts. Honestly, the 3rd Hammer Snout's the only reason that we're having problems.
I do my own stunts.
I have played it, but I haven't finished it yet. I think we take one of these just to be safe. Pray they don't have Rite of Negation.
This is my future.
Bone Skewer, huh? Wow, the balls. If they hit a Lurk trigger and they had open attacked, there was nothing I could do. I mean, they don't know that, but...
Back in the game.
Arda's gonna make a meal of them.
All right, as long as it's not Rek'Sai. Because Rek'Sai would have sent this to the moon.
You're dead meat.
You made choices.
Yeah, I forgot about the parallel convergence thing, so we're gonna have to fix that. I mean, I think we just keep taking Echo, right?
I do my own stunts.
Hey, we found a Hexite crystal too. I wonder if it has an animation or not. I guess we'll find out in a moment.
This is my future.
Assuming they don't concede, but... Oh, no animation. Yeah. Turns out Chrono Break is as good as I expected it to be. This will be a bit more of a more realistic test. This is one of those matchups where you say to yourself, okay, yeah, I guess this is fine. I really wish that I had, you know, Withering Whale or whatever. Because, like, even if you get the chrono breaks going here, I'm not convinced that that is enough. Turns out Reaper's still good. Turns out, gang, Reaper still good. Vile Feast. What a vile response. How dare they? I think you take the feline here for later. Like, this next round is going to be one of these two, but then after that, being able to play another 3-drop with a 1-drop, I think will be important.
We love it when they run.
Butcher or Wings in the Wave are problematic here. There's nothing we can do to stop it.
Shoot me right out. This is folly.
Quit struggling.
I was gonna say, like, if they send the Reaper, this was heads up though. I didn't put it here because I was like, all right, we've got like Mystic Shot for it, we've got blocks for it, we've got all sorts of stuff. I think here you still just take an open. I don't think they can't block with this. I don't think they want to give this up for either of these, so try to take free damage. So we're gonna have 2 Hexites in there, which are problematic as long as they have these, because
I'm not sure.
you know, it's just gonna fill their board more. But hey, at least Abomination's down to a 4-2. I still laugh at the idea that that used to be a 4-4. This is a bit of a rip. Hello. The greed play though is to still play this first and then predict, but this is a bit of a rip.
I will find someone. She's gonna be so happy.
Don't touch that.
Okay.
That's new. You're provoking it.
Found one of our Hexites. Okay, okay. Pretty low on our count for Ekko at the moment though. This is only what, our second predict, and then this would be our third, so
Look, I've made a breakthrough.
I think you just
All right. Show us what you can do.
take the beater.
Arda's gonna make a meal
I think you just take the beater. You want this to have the vulnerable because it's one of our fearsome blockers. That's the only one actually at the moment. Yeah, to crush whatever they play. I mean, there was that thought, but also this kind of puts them in a pickle because they're going to need a good blocker for this. And even if they drop like Nasus, it probably trades there. So
See what I've learned?
So like if you do this, for example, at the moment anyway, they don't have blockers for these two. So they can stop 5, but We get him down to 1. And then we've got a Hexite and a Mystic Shot, so...
The cycle begins anew.
Hey, we beat Nasus Thresh. That's all right. So for the folks who are hanging out here, I mean to ask something on... Oh, we played against this person earlier. I mean to ask something on YouTube at some point as well, but I'm curious if people would be interested in physical card game content, because Cosmic and some others, Blevins, have conned me into starting to play Flesh and Blood. Yeah, this is the person that played like 5 cats against me. And we were on Lulusives, and we won that. And it felt good. Boom, baboon! I think we just do this. We're just gonna have to eat the damage. I don't have a way to stop it anyway. A spicy pickup. We could iterative their cat next round though if we really want to do something. And I think we really do want to do something like that, right? Like, I think that is... just the way that this has got to be.
The crystal!
We each hold a world within. The spirit gives to those who listen.
Time.
All right, we're winning the cat race, but they're winning the damage race. They also have karma for their Hexites, which is the real problem. Let's do the Zilean so we can save the mana for the Scrying Sands here, but still get a predict in.
The way is always the same.
The win con is either Ekko just like outright shenanigans or Hexites. The big usual win con though is Ekko. It's kind of an interesting tempo deck is the best way to describe it, I think. So they're on Ionia, which means they probably have Nopifies and all sorts of stuff for our Hexite, which I think is also problematic. But we can force them to use it, I guess. Oh, wow. So they just have what? Spells? Chompers? They're waiting for the... Okay. Do I even care about Zilean? I don't think we even care about Zilean here either. I think you just push it. But yeah, it's mostly Ekko. Ekko with his... When he levels up, he gets Chrono Break. And so it's between Chrono Break and Parallel Convergence, like, being insane together. That you're doing the majority of it. A little concerning that they did it this way. Putting 2 damage here means that they are trying to set up their own Hexite. I think we pass. So they gain the health. Two of 5, so it's going to be at 3. So we'll have enough to level Ekko at this point. So now we're just really looking for more utility. Hunter, I think, is our best option. Because then we can maybe run into I next round. Because if we can get rid of the healing here, that's a pretty big deal. Oh, we have a window.
We love it when they run.
To maybe level this Zilean, though I expect it to bite it.
Wrap them up tight.
Let's try to push some damage.
You, yeah, you. Hi.
Interesting. Oh, so they're gonna deny our Zilean leveling up, but we can nuke their board as a result. And we can just save this time bomb for maybe a future Zilean. But our Ekko is now leveled. We also could just shuffle more time bombs in. But all right, so we just outbombed them.